There you go. See you later. Right. So, this is what's going to happen. How many questions do you have? Come on, Ellerine. Anybody think it's your event? There's loads. All right. Right. So listen, guys. This is the rules because some may like to hear the voice more than others. Not everyone's going to answer the same question. We'll just randomly select them and minute to 2 minutes each. If you can shorten, it's better, so then we can get through a lot more. All right? Because some of the questions may trigger some stuff with you, as we know, and then you may go into the story, and that's not what it's all about. Okay? I'm coaching you guys now. Okay? Everybody cool? So, shall we pose out there if anybody's got any questions, or should we do 3 or 4?
I'll do 3 or 4, and then
okay.
I've got a few.
All right then. So, are you ready? So, Ellerine's going to ask the questions, and Sarah's going to have the roaming mic for going round the table. Is there a mic up here yet? Yeah. No, there's no mic.
No,
okay.
They need a mic up there.
Is there another spare mic? All right. I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to sit down and think about my life. There you go. Over to you, Ellerine.
So. We're not ready yet. Is it right? Anything? Hello? Yes, we're good. So, Mike, do you want to take the first question?
Apparently so.
Is there good jealousy and bad jealousy?
No.
You said short, right?
Yeah,
You said short answers, right?
But
No.
elaborate a little bit.
Okay, well, jealousy is a negative emotion, right? So, I mean, I like to simplify life. Without going into too much detail, models are effective ways of simplifying life in a way that makes decisions easier to make, okay? So, one of my favorite models is that there are only 2 emotions on a scale. There's love and there's fear, okay? Which one is jealousy closer to? Fear, right? Do you want more fear in your life?
No.
Okay, so there's no such thing as good jealousy. There's fearful jealousy and fearful jealousy.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's covered. Thank you very much.
Okay. Would you like to pass the mic on to somebody else? Anyone? Who wants to go? Next question? Oh, all right. When is it the right time to say I love you?
Now?
Oh, that's a really interesting one. When you feel it. When you really genuinely feel it. Don't say it just because it sounds good, but say it when you genuinely, from a heart space, feel it. And I've been, had experiences where people say it at the wrong times to get a reaction, but actually it's about when it's meaningful. And it might be over dinner, it might be when you're just gazing into each other's eyes, it might be a really, really, like a football match or watching a movie, or when you're making love. So it doesn't matter when it is, as long as it's genuine.
Okay, the next question. Sorry. My apologies, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a very good question, and the reason I just wanted to add to that is I've witnessed situations where a partner will say, I love you. And the other partner doesn't say anything back. And the person who said, I love you, now becomes offended because what they said was said for a reaction, pretty much what you said. And I think the danger of that is not realizing that when someone says, I love you, it's a gift to receive it and say thank you. And if we are only saying, I love you, so you say back to me, I love you back, then it's a predictable reaction that if you don't receive, then you're programmed into thinking, well, obviously you don't love me then. If I just told you I love you, why didn't you say you love me back, huh? What's your I just said I love you. Yes, well, I'm waiting for you to say the same thing back to me. And so it's a very interesting question, and something that we should bear in mind, that when we say we love someone, yes, from the heart, and give it as a gift.
This is interesting. why does he avoid dates for future? What can I do different? The question is, why does he avoid dates for future? What can I do different? Yeah, it says, why does he avoid dates for future? What can I do different? That's exactly.
Well, I think.
Next question.
I think the question today is: have you actually asked that person?
That's what I was going to say.
You know, why they are avoiding dates for the future? Because we can come up with all of the answers and possible reasons why that person might be avoiding the date, but have you actually had that open conversation with them? Now, have you got unreasonable expectations as to what that date and might turn into? Because remember, it's just a date at the moment. It's not a relationship that you're in. So think about your expectations as to what you want to receive from that date, and then ask an open and honest question, and be willing to receive whatever they give back to you. So I'm not quite sure who asked that question, but I would ask the question back is, have you actually asked that person why they are avoiding the date with you? And if it goes radio silent, then perhaps that person isn't the right person for you at this time. That's where you have control. You can take control of that situation and you can move on.
I'd like to add a little bit to that, and that is that I had an experience where somebody was absolutely, totally in love with me, and we had great, great times out. And then suddenly, I stopped hearing anything from him, and I stopped, no texts, just he didn't, show up for the last date. He just said, I'm sorry, I'm working, and I said, that's okay. And then he contacts me 1 year later, and he'd had skin cancer. So you have to ask. And I was thinking, what have I done? Is it me? And I did a poll on Facebook. And actually, there was something going on in their lives that's absolutely nothing to do with you. And I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, but I couldn't work it out. I thought, well, why would somebody just go radio silent like that? And it's probably because there's something going on in their lives that they've not told you. He was a young guy as well. I was dating, young, a toy boy. and because he was young, he didn't have the confidence to say what. And he said that he got it while he was on holiday, and he was really embarrassed. He was very ginger-haired, very ice creamy, white and freckled, and he had skin cancer, from the sunburn while he was on holiday. And he just said he felt hugely embarrassed. So, and the other thing is, we find it hard to say no. And it might just be that, you know what, I'm not interested. So you don't know, and like, has been said, that it could just be that if you ask. But I didn't want to intrude on his space, so I didn't say anything. I left it so that he could come back and say if he was ready, if there was anything at all. So you really don't know what's going on in their world, and it's probably absolutely nothing to do with you.
Thank you. Brilliant answer. Anybody out here that wants to ask a question?
My question is, are you all in relationships, and what tip will you give to someone who is potentially wanting to meet someone? So, are you, what are you doing if you are, if you are not in a relationship, what are you doing? And if you are in a relationship, what is the number one tip you would give?
I'm currently not in a relationship, and I'm quite happy that way, thank you very much. I think, like we said today, spending time with yourself, getting to know yourself is massively important. And I think that comes before anything else that you do. I don't think you should rush into a relationship. I think you should take your time to get to know yourself. And when you're ready, whenever that may be, then that's the time to move things forward.
I'd just like to add as well, I haven't had a relationship for many, many years, and I don't consider myself weird just because I'm not in a relationship for so long, and I think that working on myself is the most important thing, because I'm raising my vibration so that I am a spiritual match to that man out there who I believe is also doing that. So working on yourself and doing all them things that make you feel good, and learning and loving yourself more, and putting yourself and raising your vibration so that you become a spiritual match to that man out there or that woman.
I would like to endorse that, and my answer would be pretty much the same, so I'm going to add to that. I'm in a great relationship with myself, and that's the first relationship. The first relationship is you, and then when you're in a great relationship with you, then you attract a great person to be in a relationship with you. So if you're not happy about your results out here, it's about looking at what's not working for you, because you've got total control of that. The other thing is, I've just started dating. And I've had to I'll tell you more later.
So the next question is for...
I think she wanted to hear from everybody.
Oh, you still finished?
It was a question to everyone.
Okay, make it short.
I'm in a great relationship. Thanks very much. She can testify to that.
I am in a relationship. I've just got engaged. Thank you. I moved my entire life to be with this person because it is my spiritual match. It is my soulmate, and I do believe there is the one. So, yes. So I've got my lovely ring. So thank you.
I'm quite boring. I tend to keep my private life private, but it is something I'm working on.
What, making it less private?
I would absolutely agree with Caroline that firstly I'm in a relationship with myself, and actually 12 weeks ago my relationship of 7 years has come to an end, and I am now a single mummy to my 18-month-old daughter. But what I will say, for various reasons why it has happened, is that they were the happiest 7 years of my life because I was connected with who I was, and that is the relationship with myself that I have, and that will allow me to attract future love into my life.
I didn't answer the second part of your question, sorry, which was what would I give advice? I think it's actually been said. I think becoming friends first is key. I think too many relationships often, not always, but often move so quickly that the physical intimacy is what begins to define the actual relationship rather than establishing an understanding of friendship. Because ultimately, not to say that the novelty of the physical intimacy will wear off, but there will be times where maybe that isn't at the forefront. What are you then left with? And if you don't have a solid friendship with that individual, then the relationship could be defined purely physically.
I've got a quick question to the audience, if I may. How many people here have a rule about not sleeping with friends? Okay, so you only sleep with strangers. I've never understood this thing. I've never understood this idea. But anyway, I'm just curious about that. You know, okay, I got lucky because I met somebody and we became instant best friends. All right, and very shortly after that, we became romantic. So I got lucky, right? But I'm just curious because I agree, right? I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with somebody who I wasn't friends with, above and beyond being lovers.
Because lovers can come and go, but friends, they last for a long time, don't they?
Well,
so.
yeah, forever. So, yeah, exactly.
But can I also say, understand that there is a very fine line here, because you can be friends with someone, you can even be married to someone, and you are still strangers. So it's not just about being friends, it really is. We've talked about connecting in the soul and all of that. So that was a great question, and I love that. Who would sleep with strangers? But in reality, sometimes we do.
I think that's what most people do, which is why it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So the next question.
Got a hand up over here.
Oh, someone's got a hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
yeah, it's quite interesting about this being friends. I was married for 18 years, and my husband was my friend for 2 years before that. And so when we got divorced, I had to separate all those relationships out and make peace with all of them. One of them was this friendship that I'd lost. So, that can last a lifetime. It can do, but sometimes you have to just let things go, don't you? Yeah.
I think you should be letting things go all the time, to be honest. Constantly letting... I think when you're... Does anybody understand if I say, if you're attached to an outcome? Yeah? If you're attached to an outcome, if you're attached to somebody loving you, if you're attached to somebody staying with you for the rest of your life, you're actually going to inject some negative energy into that relationship. And that's not a good thing to do.
Yeah, so this attachment is, you're not always aware that you've got this attachment, and that's why it has table and say, you know, well, what was this all about? And because obviously he is the father of the children, he was my husband, my best friend, and you know, the whole gamut of, you know, sort of connections. So I'm all about making peace with your past. And one of the things that Ellerin was talking about earlier is about forgiveness. And one of the ladies talked about, well, how do you forget? Well, forgiveness starts with you. Forgiveness is forgiving yourself for having ended up with this loser or whatever you want to call that person, right? So it begins with you, and then you start to forgive other people around you. And then it's not necessary to forget. No. It's not about forgetting.
You don't want to forget.
You
want to remember everything that happened so you can learn from it.
Yes.
So you don't forget, but you forgive, yeah. Absolutely.
But it's going through that painful process, isn't it? It's important to go through that painful process of...
It's much less painful when you do it quickly. If you can learn to take 100% responsibility for all your actions and all the results you produce, then you are...
It's easy to say that, but when you're doing it on your own, yes, if you're working with a coach or a counsellor, it's a lot quicker.
Or good friends.
Or...
You know...
I always found it's better to work with people who don't know you, because, you know, they're not judging you, they're just hearing what you're saying.
Your friends judge you?
Yeah, of course we do.
I don't have any friends like that.
Yeah, I think there's sort of a certain amount of judgment there. But in terms of they love you and therefore they want the best for you, sometimes it's not what you need. Yeah? It's not objective. Yeah.
Can I just... Sorry, I was just about to say, this lady actually has made a very valid point. I have some great friends, and this is no disrespect to what you've just said. Your friends will all view you. It's like we're all standing around one oak tree, and we all see the tree from a different perspective. And all your friends will give you different perspectives based on their own experience. And I've had this time and time again. You know, lots of my friends said, "Why have you had one disastrous relationship after another? But it's so easy for you to help others." That's my path. It's harder for me to be in relationship with my friends because they can judge me for that than it is for those that actually follow me or work with me, because they can see the benefit that they get from it. So as I say, sometimes it is good to try to speak about this with people who don't know you, as you say.
Thank you.
It's also a grieving issue. It's when the relationship stops and the friendship stops, because that's exactly what happened in my marriage. That I'd actually not lost a lover and a husband. I lost my best mate and my buddy, and we'd been friends, really, really good friends, for 9 years. And it was very, very challenging for me because I didn't lose my husband. I lost my buddy. I lost my mate, and that was tough. I was alone, and so I was actually grieving the death of the marriage, but actually I was really grieving the death of a friendship, because he was still alive, and that's that. You know, when you grieve, then that's part of the process of letting go.
Thank you.
It's difficult when you divorce somebody to maintain them. You know,
I agree with.
To acknowledge that. Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to roll on because we've got so many more questions. But it's all very good, and we're running out of time. So sorry to cut you. So, next question: what turns men off in relationships?
It's been a long time, I can't remember.
You know, the answer to that question varies, because different things appeal to different men. Whatever answer I give, I would only be representing a certain percentage of men. So if I were to speak, I guess representing that percentage of men, what turns me off is the facade that both men and women are guilty of, but the facade that sometimes can be presented. I was in Atlanta many years ago at a big event there, And I'd just done a show, and I was signing autographs for my prints, and there was this huge crowd around me. And it was an interesting scenario because a lot of young ladies were there. They were stunning. They're beautiful, absolutely amazing. And this crowd was here, and this young lady literally pushed her way all the way. She was stunning. It's beautiful. And she just pushed her way all the way through. And the crowds on either side were looking and thinking, well, who are you? And she pushed herself all the way through. Her breast arrived before her body. It was like it was one of those. Oh, my goodness. And she was, anyway, long story short, she reached me and she went, here's my business card. And she just stood there. And then she said, and they were all looking at her, well, are you going to call me? And I was shocked. I said, well, I'll take my card back then, thank you. And she walked off. And so, whereas initially I might have been attracted to her, I was instantly turned off by her attitude, by her arrogance, and by her demeanor, and by her disrespect for those around her. When we sometimes think we are bigger or better than others, that can be, no matter how attractive and appealing you might be, that can be a huge turn-off. So, and the speakers, we've all talked about it in terms of being true to yourself and identifying someone and being attracted to someone who's being real, as opposed to, as I said, having that facade or pretending to be better than others and creating that persona that, you need to know me. And if you don't, it's your loss. Well, that's fine. I'm happy to lose out. So that's one of the things. Sincerity is key. And climbing ladders.
So this is an interesting question. If you have friends with benefits and you're openly sharing it, are you not closing your options to someone else which could be of interest?
I can answer that. It's a duplicitous question. So if you're in a relationship of friends with benefits, and that is what you want long term, then the other part of the question is irrelevant. If what you want is a monogamous, lasting, profoundly related relationship, then you've answered your question. Yeah. Oh, she didn't answer.
I asked that question was because there was a lady in here that admittedly opened up and said that she had friends with benefits.
Mike.
Hi. So she said that she had friends with benefits, and she admitted that in front of the whole room. And what my point was that, say, for example, there was a man in here that was potentially attracted to that lady, she would have blown her. Would she have blown her chance with him because he would have now seen her in a different light? Not only would she have been seen as somebody that's easy, she's instant. For me, and this is just my opinion, and it's what I believe, I would have felt that she would have been seen or perceived as easy, not respectful, and if he was thinking, right, I'm going to go and talk to her later, she's blown her chance. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that's what most men might look at if she's loose.
In my case, no. I'm a hedonist. I approve. So yeah, so not a problem for me. I wouldn't put me off. If she's having a good time and she's not hurting anybody, it wouldn't upset me personally. But I agree with you.
Could another guy answer that for me? Not to say because you're happily married and
and I'm
but
atypical.
I just want to know overall. Maybe we can ask.
I'm atypical. I think you're probably right. A lot of men would be put off by that.
Would you like to answer that question?
Can I just? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I agree actually because I thought she was a very attractive young lady, but when she said that, it did put me off actually. But I admire her honesty.
Sorry,
what did you say?
Maybe that's what she was looking for, the opportunity to be out there and free, not tied to anybody in particular.
I think what the lady said at the back, most men or some men will make a judgment. And if it was even the other way around and it was a man who said that, somebody would make a judgment. You're saying something about yourself straight away. So you will attract some people say, yeah, I'm up for that. And some people say, well, no, that's not mine. I'm moving away.
That's good for her, because if she's that open, then it would separate.
Fair enough, but a lot of guys would say, well, if you're looking for a serious relationship, which I think is what this event is about, well, that's what the event's about.
Yeah, sorry. What I would also say to that is that she's over here, we are all in a safe space. So what views you espouse are for the room, and that's her view. And it's not for us to be judgmental about her. But that's up to her. That's her relationship.
I just wonder, sorry. I just wonder if you're in a situation.
This lady wants to say. Hold on, this lady wants to say something. Go on.
Hello.
No, I've kind of lost the plot on this one, because what you just said then, what goes on tour stays on tour. If she'd stayed in the room, would we be discussing this? She was honest. Now, the fact that she said what she did, I could have say, oh, I've got a boyfriend. I could have another boyfriend next week, the week after, the week after. I could have 50 boyfriends in a year. Does that make me less than somebody who has what she may call friends with benefits? And it could be one every 6 months. I really don't understand what the... And we all have indiscretions of different types, but she's disclosed that one, and it's quite a heated topic, but everyone has a skeleton in their cupboard. You don't come out on a date and tell somebody, oh, I've had friends with benefits, but I don't tell anyone, or I've had so many men, or you've had... I've lost the plot on that one, to be honest.
And I'd like to add to that as to why you've lost the plot. Because it's about our moral code and our standards.
Hello, yeah, and not to make any judgments or anything. Say you have a friends with benefit, you get on really well. Like a man's opinion, can that ever develop into something serious? Or will it just be the person I have fun with?
That's a very good point. I think with the reality is, and Sharon, that's a very good question, because there is a certain degree of, a great deal of truth behind that question, which is this. Certain men will be attracted to that kind of relationship, knowing that it's not going to be anything that serious that they would take home to their mother or to meet their parents. Whereas if a different type of woman that doesn't necessarily, if you will, operate that way, if a man is attracted to her, that probably increases the chances of him, one, taking her more seriously, as well as taking her home to meet mom and dad. So it's not that, I'm certainly not attacking either. I'm saying there is, for every action, there is a reaction. And I think it's a great question that does actually need to be addressed, because as you've pointed out, we all have skeletons in our cupboards, we all function in different ways, but we also have to hold ourselves accountable for the decisions we make, knowing that if indeed, yes, we decide to have friends with benefits, then we shouldn't necessarily expect that to then lead into a serious relationship based on how some men think.
Even if it's not...
Absolutely, but the question was directed to men, that's why I'm... Yes. Yeah, but you're absolutely right, sir.
Hello, even if it's...
It was for the men.
Even if it's not a friends with benefit, you just might start having sex with them earlier than you would. You can't help yourself. And I know times have changed, but it's like there's still that, the Madonna whore syndrome. You know, some woman may pretend, you know, I'm not going to have sex with you for a couple of months, and then she could be the biggest slag on, you know, but she's not telling the guy. Do you understand? But I don't know.
Okay, we're going to move on. Move on to the next question. We're going to move on to the next question. Move on to the next question. So, move on to the next question. Because we could be here all night debating about this friends with benefits. So, let's move on very swiftly. How do you deal with a guy who shows no emotion, yet you know he really likes you?
I can't answer that one.
I can answer that one. Men and women, or should I say the masculine and feminine energy, operate in different ways. And so it might be that he shows his emotions and feelings in a different way. That doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just different to how you might show your feelings and emotions. They might not be tearful or angry, but they might actually go quiet and thinking, or they might go into their man cave, or they might do less than what they normally do, but there will be a way that they demonstrate how they're feeling and being. And so it's not necessarily wrong, it's just a different way.
I'd like to say one of the first things I discussed with Amy at the beginning of the relationship was all the buttons that she needed to learn to push to get the results that she wanted from me. Because I know myself quite well, I know what buttons to push to get certain results. So if I'm non-communicative, do this. If I'm, whatever it is. If you want to get me to do the washing up, ask me like this or tell me this, and so on and so forth. She had all the ammunition she needed to get any result she wanted from me right from the first week. Then it's up to her to learn to use them. So she's got all the power. She just has to learn to use it. So I think it's highly recommended, by the way. If you really care about somebody and you know yourself, give them all the ammunition they need to make the relationship work and do it vice versa. So that's what I'd recommend.
I'll just add to that as well. If you have a chance with your partner, is to have a look online, because we all have different love languages that we speak. And there are the 5 love languages that you can find online. And I would encourage you to ask your partner to fill that in, and you fill it in yourself. Because what you will understand is that he may be speaking a different love language to you. And once you understand the language that he's speaking in, it will better connect you with that. And then he can understand your language too. So just simply Google 5 love languages, and there's a free online questionnaire that you can fill out, and encourage your partner to do that, and that may give you more insight.
Thank you. So, what are the main things a man looks for in a woman?
That's a dangerous question. And I've been asked that question a few times. I'm going to answer it, and please, ladies, don't jump up here and cut my head off. It depends on which category of things that we're looking for. From my perspective, some of the basic things I look for in a woman, calm down, please. She's got to be able to cook, clean, be domesticated, can iron. Now, why would I say that? I say that, no, see, I'm being very serious. I'm being very serious. These are...
The first one was right.
Okay, let me qualify this now. The reason I look for those basic things is because I can already do all of those things myself. Yes. And I'm looking for someone that is a partner. If I'm cooking all week, and I love cooking, if I'm tired at the end of the week, I want to know that my partner can step up and do a good 3-course meal. I actually enjoy, believe it or not, ironing. I don't like washing dishes that much. Ironing. But I want to know that I'm with someone that I'm not going to be a nursemaid for. Why? Because these are very basic things that can get in the way of a serious relationship. If you were with someone that can't even boil rice or make toast. So yes, in terms of that question can be answered in so many ways. But that's one of the ways I answer, because I think it's important for men to be as domesticated as women, so that it's not a question or a case of expecting once you're married, then she does all of the domesticated. You have to create that balance. I actually talk about that in my sculpture, but that's another story. But the point is, make sure, well, for me, I look for those basic things. So once those are in place, I know I can then move on to other elements and other areas of attraction. How do you... This is why you become friends first. The process is establish a friendship first. Why? Because you can go through a plethora of areas within your life to find out about that individual. You might be with someone that wants to have sex 3 times a day, every day of the week. You can find this out by being friends, not actually participating in it, but discovering it and talking. There are some, it's up to you, but there are some people who they jump past the friendship stage, and then they discover what they need to discover when it's too late. So to answer your question, in terms of how do you find out, be friends first. And then take one step at a time and discuss these issues. What are you like in terms of your temperament? Are you angry? Do you like to have the last word? Are you controversial? Do you spend time thinking about others or how you can give back to the community? What are you about? Who are you? And finding out about someone, this takes time. And I've spoken to many women who, once they meet, not necessarily me, but once they meet, it's like if they get on with you, and this works both ways, once they meet you, if they like you, then, well, hey, we should start dating, or we've been together 3 weeks, why haven't we had sex yet? Or, what's your views on marriage? Can we get married? Are you thinking of getting... And it's too much too soon. And so to answer your question, it's about being friends first and finding out, step by step, those qualities.
Can I be reminded exactly what the question was? Great answer. I can't remember what the question was. What are the qualities I'm looking for in a woman?
Yes, what are the main things a man looks for in a woman?
Well, me, small and cute. Just like that. Unlike yourself, our relationship is more complementary because I can't cook rice, even with a rice cooker. Actually, I probably could with a bit of training. But she can't iron. She can't use a sewing machine. She can't drive. She does pretty much all the cooking. I can do baked beans on toast, and I've given up bread, so that's pretty challenging.
And that's
Plain beans by themselves are pretty boring.
That's why I said it's a question that can be answered in so many ways. For some people, I know married couples, the wife will not let the husband in the kitchen. That's her territory. And he's happy with that.
Yeah.
And that works. But the point I'm making is, as men, we should not expect that is your role as a woman to look after us in that way. That's what I'm saying.
Totally agree. And I'd say, going back to something we said earlier, my only criteria, I think, for both friends and lovers is that they're authentic and they allow me to be me. That's it. That's my foundation. If you allow me to be me, because I'm pretty weird, right? Okay? So if you have enough flexibility to allow me to be me, and you're authentically being you, we can be best friends. That's the bottom line. That's it.
Brilliant stuff. A question for the ladies: when is it the right time to sleep with a man?
When you feel like
it. Well, I'll say, when I had my relationship, it was just the second night. And then 3 months later, he moved in, and I was pregnant, and then we was together for 10 years. So it all depends, I mean, that worked, and it just depends, really, on how the energies are and how you are and what happens, isn't it? Do you feel?
For me, the other end, I make friends first. I want to feel comfortable.
Actually, I'd just like to say, but after all being alone for 12 years, now it would have to be friends. Yeah. It would have to be like that, first of all.
So I need to get to know them. I need to feel comfortable with them. I need to feel that it's okay to share my deepest soul with that person and share it, sort of from the bottom of my heart. And I don't feel that I could do that on the first or second day. I just don't. That's just sex. And I'm not interested in having sex. I'm interested in having a soulful and deep, meaningful, intimate connection. And that doesn't come from my perspective, meeting and having sex on the first night. That is sex, and it's just not for me. So friendship is my first place. And I don't know how long that would be, but then there will be a point that it feels, it just feels comfortable. And there is no question of right or wrong or timing. It will just feel right, and whatever that timing is. And then it's more meaningful, and it's just more soulful, and it's more deeper in terms of the experience.
And it's about the connection, isn't it, as well? It's all about the connection that you feel, the energy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can answer this one. I think it's different for everyone, and I don't think there's any rules. No. And I think that just because one person feels this way doesn't mean to say everyone does. And I think so if your head, your heart, and your gut are saying that it's right, it's right.
Thank you.
Can I quickly say, I know I'm not a woman, although my wife says I am. She says I'm all gooey inside. So I just want to say that I think, we're the only creatures on this planet who can think about the future. That's what sets us apart from animals. We can actually imagine the future. And I would say, imagine afterwards how you're going to feel. And if you're going to feel good about just having had sex with whoever it is, then great. We can do that. That's the joy of being human. We can think into the future and imagine what things are going to be like in the future. So if you can imagine what it's going to be like afterwards and feel good about that, then I would say it's probably an action worth taking. You'll either learn something or you'll have a good time.
Following on from that, the person also asks, when is it the right time to be exclusive, ask for commitment in the relationship?
Can I answer that? I think it's a mutual thing. It's not that one of you is going to decide upon that. I think it's just a mutual instinct. That connection is there, that deep, long-lasting, undeniable knowing that there's something that's long-lasting. So I think it's just a mutual thing that just rises from your gut. It is very instinctive. That's what we are as human beings. And there's no set rules with any of this. It has to be instinct, and it has to be the right connection.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else?
I was going to start with a quote, which was about hating. Yeah, so I forget who actually coined it, but it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So that ties in with the whole forgiveness thing nicely. But my question was about honesty, because some of us meet our need for certainty through being honest, and other people do not. So in my sort of experience, when I was being very, very honest, it was being potentially naive and creating jealousy or things like that. And I'd rather that something came from my mouth than it would, be heard by my partner from somebody else. And when I was asked, are you trying to make me jealous? It's like, no, so it's like, well, I'm just being honest. So, that's me. That's how I, meet my need for certainty, I suppose. Or, I was brought up with honesty with my mum, and my dad is just the biggest, seen as the epitome of perfection in everybody else's eyes. But when it came to actually being honest, he'd be honest 1 minute, and then he'd lie to you about the same thing the next minute, and then your dad, so... what is the sort of scope of honesty, too much honesty, being naive in that context? My dad said to me, when you're 30 years into a relationship, then you can start discussing what you did when you were 20. It's like, oh, okay. So.
Can I just say I grew up in an environment where I was told that if I wasn't honest, I would get punished for it. However, the dishonesty was actually us not admitting what was going on to us for me as a child. So there was mixed messages. So later on in relationship, I was attracting people who were dishonest, and I was being honest, and actually there was this polar thing going on. There was the two extremes. So eventually, once I learnt about what kind of relationship I was having with myself, and therefore what kind of relationship was good for me, I learnt about discernment. So it is very much about being discerning about what needs to come to the forefront in that relationship as far as honesty is concerned. And I think when you naturally meet the right person, you don't have any of that issue anymore anyway. You've gone past that. It's another lesson.
Yeah, I think that telling your truth is empowering. The truth shall set you free, and I think that to do that to your friends, your close friends who really know about you, and the man that you're going to be with is going to be your companion, and I think to have that is beautiful, because the truth is all we have, and to say it is really important, and to be who you are in every moment, to be your true self is what life is all about. We're here to do that.
I think it's also about aiming high. So if you aim with the right places, you'll get the right kind of people. So if you aim too low, then you will find that those things become an issue. But if you're aiming high, you don't get that.
Yeah. This is for, say, guys approaching women, saying any situation. Would you make your intentions very clear from the beginning, saying that you're looking for a partner, rather than falling into the friend zone And then what I think my experience and the experience of a lot of my friends, if you fall into that friend zone thing, it's difficult to get out. it's better to make your intentions very clear right from the beginning, and then, that way you're being authentic what you want that relationship to be about, and then you're not friend-zoned.
I'm not 100% I'm not 100% sure if authenticity really comes into this, because quite often you might not know what your goals are, your aims and objectives are. And I think those decisions aren't necessarily made until you get to know that person. Because once you've met a young lady, to then set out, on a plate, these are my intentions, you might be talking to the person with whom you're not compatible with. Sure. And I think that's why the step of becoming friends first is where you do your fact-finding. And once you've done your fact-finding and you see that there are areas of compatibility, then you can progress to different stages of conversations, which can then incorporate, my long-term goals are, or my plans are, and so forth. But I personally wouldn't suggest that you lay them out there straight away from day one. Well, yes. Well, that's a very good. It's a funny thing to say, but it's very true. As you're testing the waters, it gives her a chance to exit. It gives you a chance to exit before you've jumped into bed, and it's harder to exit, literally.
But I think I know what he's talking about in terms, because a lot of my guy friends do tend to complain, because, initially at the beginning they might see a girl, they like the girl, and they know that. But the problem is, obviously, as they start getting to know, the potential girl, and then, they develop that friendship, but then afterwards, the girl just starts seeing the guy like just as the guy friend, and that doesn't potentially change, so they get stuck within that, guy friendship zone. So it becomes quite hard to kind of progress that into from friendship to potential relationship.
My response to that is what will be, will be. You cannot distort the beginning of a relationship in the hope that the person won't see you as a friend. And for you to try and twist it, or for a guy to change his approach in order for her not to see him as a friend, to me is disguising the eventual truth. So if she does end up seeing him as a friend, then what will be, will be. He can't force her to see him as a man that she's attracted to if she sees him as a friend. And changing his approach, I don't think, would necessarily change her view of how she envisage him.
And I would caution people not to go looking for how things will not work. Yeah? A lot of people will go looking for, hey, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Yeah? Stop thinking about it. Just think about what you want. Just keep focusing on what you want. Know that you're going to get it, and just work inside of that. Like the lady said earlier about every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better, or words to that effect. Yeah, you just want to stay in a similar loop, which is this is the person I'm going to end up with, and it's going to happen really, really soon. Today may be the day I meet the partner of my dreams. You could say that every morning.
There are so many stories I've heard where a man will see a woman and a woman will see a man, and they will just be friends. They're not even attracted to each other. They look at each other and don't even look at them as someone they're attracted to. But because of the friendship, and they discover, wow, this person is very compassionate. This person has a great sense of humor. This person loves and cares for his parents. Then all of a sudden, the physical appearance becomes secondary to the beauty of the person within, that then begins to shine, which attracts the person to them. So that, to me, is a more sincere route in terms of identifying or finding someone that is compatible with you, rather than taking the approach we initially mentioned.
This is a question for everyone on the stage and for the ladies in here to think about, and the gentlemen. This is in regards to when you go on dates, who should pay for what? So the question is, for the ladies on the panel, do you expect a man who truly treasures you to ask you to pay 50%? And the men on the panel, if you truly think that she is a gem and she's a princess, a queen, long term in a relationship, should you be continuing to split that bill 50%? And I'm talking about everything, rent, everything, going on holidays. Or should you be treating her like a queen?
Again, my goodness, why am I answering this question? You know, that's a question that really I don't think can be answered in one particular way, because it depends on the situation. Let's say, for example, you and I are married, okay, but you're earning 100 grand a year for whatever reason, pursuing what you're doing, and I'm earning 20 grand a year, okay? That will affect the actual question, the outcome of that question. You're waving your hands.
Not that type of scenario. Let's talk about you have good incomes. Sorry, you both have good incomes, or you are, as a male person, so you ladies on the panel, you're dating someone who is financially, you know, available, okay, to provide, and you gentlemen, you are in a financial position. And irregardless of how much she is earning, you are still able to provide. Should you be doing 50-50? And what does that mean?
Are we to assume that the man is the one that's always inviting her out? Because that also that adds a different sense of dynamics to it.
It's just a very simple question. Should you be doing 50-50?
I can answer that. Oh, you're going to go? Shall I go first?
Yeah, from the lady's perspective, okay. So if I'm going to go out on a date, I go with no expectations, but I make sure that I am able to pay my own way, so that I can actually go out there and I can offer to pay for it. I don't go with the expectations. I think once you start a relationship with, or dating with expectations, then you are setting yourself up for disappointment. So at least, exactly. So as long as you can go there, and it really depends upon the vibe of the night. You know, he may offer you, or she may offer you the first drink. Okay, that's fine, but just go there knowing that you can pave your own way as well. So that's me. No, yeah, that's my personal opinion.
Great. I would second that. I would actually endorse that I have just got out onto the dating scene again, and I always take more than enough money with me, and I will always make an offer. But interestingly enough, every time, even when I was in relationships and dating a long time ago, for whatever reason, I've tended to attract people that have a lot of money and they generally pay. But that doesn't mean to say that I take that for granted. I always take money and make the offer, because actually they might say they have a lot of money, but it's like all accounted for, or they've got a big holiday. So I do like to offer, and when you offer, it gives them a choice. You know, it gives them a choice of, or I will turn around and say, I really quite like this. At the end, if we've had a meal, I'll just say, how much do I owe you? And they say, oh, no, I'll sort out the bill. So I also think that's a nice way, because then they can decide. I would say probably maybe 2% of the time I've paid. So it's very little.
Again, I just don't think there's any hard and fast rules. I think it's up to the individual couple, and I don't think there's a general rule. I think that's a bit naive to think that there would be. If I got offered for my meal to be paid for, that's lovely. And yeah, I would feel like a princess. But I'm quite happy to pay my half, and if that's a long-term arrangement, then that's fine by me. And I think, you know, there's no expectation on being blessed or, being looked after. If it happens, then fine. But if it doesn't, fine.
I think you gave a brilliant answer, because if a man you're on a date with a man, and the expectation of him paying, you make it quite clear that is not an expectation. In general, I believe men want to pay. But because he is aware that you are open to that, then he is less likely to feel as though you're taking advantage of him or being, a gold digger. So I think that's a brilliant answer. And you've commented as well, supports that answer absolutely. It's great. I hope that answers your question, young lady. Yeah. You want your 50? Okay, well, I'll pay everything for you, yeah? Buy a house, buy a car, buy an island for you. Anything else? Want a shirt on my back? What else? Shoes? Jacket as well. Look! Glasses. Can't see you now, you know. Let me glasses. See me glasses, then here. See me glasses. I'm only joking.
Have we got any more questions for the panel?
This might be a really difficult question to answer. You may need to extend till Monday. How can you separate what you want with what you need? Because I think I really struggle with that.
Yeah, what you want is not necessarily what you need. So you'll be expressing, I want this, I want that, I want the other, but what you're really needing. So I can give you an example. When I was within my marriage, I was wanting external affection. So I was saying, kiss me, hold me, give us a slushy kiss, because there was no intimacy. So I was wanting, but actually what I needed, what I really wanted was validation. I was actually looking for that he did like me, because I wasn't sure. So those little things that I was asking for, I was wanting them to give me validation that he did love me, that he did care, because what I did was I made a conclusion then, oh, you don't love me. So my need was approval and validation.
Can I just add to that, because that's a brilliant question and fantastic answer, and I think we can separate want and need. Want comes from the head. We tend to want things that are missing, the void we want to fill. When there's a need, it usually tends to be the tougher choice, or it's what the heart is leading us to do. So what I would say is, whenever you make a choice, because that's what it all boils down to, ask what your heart says, not what your head says.
And if I could add to that, if the things that you want are also the things that you need, then there's no need for separation. If you think about it, if the things that you want are also the things that you need. Yes, are you hearing that? Okay, thank you. So you're standing in front of the gentleman. I'm trying to speak to.
Move,
yeah, sorry, that's okay. Now you're standing in. Thank you. So what I'm saying, what you've heard in terms of the separations and the way in which you can separate, absolutely bang on. But understand there are certain things that in life that we will want, that we will also need. So if you can identify what those things are, then there's no need to separate those particular things.
I think because I'm not getting what I want, maybe it's because I don't need it. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm puzzled why I'm single, to be honest. I just I've never had a happy relationship, and I'm 51 years old. I just think it's bizarre.
Sorry, I can wholeheartedly understand where you're coming from. It took me 50 years of going through difficulty in relationship. Actually, the first 3 years of my life was extremely happy, so I kind of had a template to work from. It's because of that it kept me fighting and believing that there was right relationships out there. And now I have, it's taken me a long time, but I'm finally there. But that's what it is. It's all down to belief. And if you've got a mentor or somebody you've always looked up to, somebody who can help you understand about yourself, who can reflect what it is that you can't see in yourself, that's what you need to come to the surface.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of this year, my marriage ended a year ago, and at the start of this year end of last year, I moved out of the family home. And I've been really positive and really happy, because I think that's the right energies to get what you want. Yeah. And it's been one disaster after another. So my dad died 6 weeks ago, lost my job, unemployed. My kids are broken. But I'm trying to be positive. But sometimes that's really tough.
I absolutely understand that. I had meningitis in 2003, and that changed my life completely. I might look as if I'm a happy bunny here, but I'm sitting in a lot of pain. I can't take pain relief because I only have one kidney. I'm lucky to be alive. I was told that I wasn't going to live in that hospital. And I've had one serious condition after another. I've lost one business and one home after another. And I lost my daughter, who was taken away from me, and we weren't reunited for 21 years. So I understand loss. I can't possibly imagine what you've gone through. I can only understand what I've gone through, and can have empathy with the people that come to me and talk to me about it. But all I say is, you've got to keep going. Keep going in that tunnel, because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I am trying to be positive. I think the other side, I'm an accountant, and with not working now, my money situation is pretty drastic, and if I get made bankrupt, that actually could ruin my career as well. So it's not just about money, it's about my future. Yep. I don't want to retrain. I like being an accountant, sometimes I wonder why. So I'm just trying to deal with one issue at a time, and the first thing is I need to get a job this week.
Yeah. Can I say I identify with you?
Yeah.
I've been through 70 major traumas in my life, and it's only really come to a head the last 3 months. I didn't even know they were there. Okay, so it might be that you've already got trauma in your life that you haven't dealt with, or you've got unforgiveness in your life that you haven't dealt with, and that might be having a knock-on effect, and I can only speak from my experience in that. But one thing I would say is make sure you feel the emotions. Joy is what you need to do, and the resilience, you have to have it, but you need to feel. You need to feel that grief, and you need to feel the loss. It's really, really important. And even if it's just on your own, but if you can do it with a friend, even better. Cry on someone's shoulder. Have those strong friends around you.
I haven't cried about my dad since he died 6 weeks ago, and I don't feel the need to cry. And I don't know when that's going to start, or if it will ever start. I really don't know. Caroline.
Okay, what I would say is thank you. Round of applause for this gentleman for sharing. All right. Okay. And listen, I know what it's like losing somebody. Believe me, and I feel your pain. Good thing for you that Ray, compared to me, it was 6 weeks ago, and I didn't start dealing with it properly for 13 years. So I went through 13 years of what you're going through. All I would say to you is, there's people up there that can help you. Right? Speak to them, and they will make you heal. All right, and I'm here if you want to chat as well, okay? All right, cool. Listen, everybody. Don't you lot want to go home? Listen, I'd like to... Donald, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to leave everyone with a thought, because I think this is something that really affects relationships that we might not be aware of. I want you all to be totally honest with me, panelists as well, by the show of hands. How many of you have regrets? By the show of hands. How many of you don't? Wow. Normally when I ask this question, I'm the only person with my hand up. Now, thank you very much. The reason I ask this question is this, and maybe I can talk to those who put their hands up as well. There are many things I have done in my life that are regrettable, but I don't have them with me. And that is the key. If I have money in my pocket, I have it with me. And so when we have regrets, whatever the relationships we've gone through, whoever we've met, whoever we've wronged, or we've done things that we regret, if we hold on to those regrets, year in, year out, year in, year out, they compound. And I'm sure there are panelists on here that can talk about that stress level more so than I, in terms of what that can do in terms of the impact. And so my closing message, if I can call it that, to everyone is this. For those of you that have regrets, I could have studied hard at school, I could have got more qualifications, I should have done this, I should have done that. If you hold on to them, that can be a major burden that can impact the relationships you then go into. Not just romantic, social-wise, in business, in all aspects of your life. So for those of you that raised your hand, I hope I'm echoing the reasons why you raise your hands, and for that along with me. And for those that say they have regrets, look at those regrets that you have and examine how you can let them go. Accept the fact that yes, they are regrets, but don't have them with you. Because the more you add them onto you go through life, there are going to be things I'm going to mess up in life. But what I don't want to do is add those as regrets on top of my back, on top of my back, on top of my back, because it blocks the way forward. Sure. No, I'm not saying to forget. No. Oh, no. I remember them, and I'm learning from them. But I'm not living my life saying, oh, wow, I wish I hadn't done this to her, or I wish I hadn't done this, and so forth. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, guys.
I'd just like to add one more thing. It's, for me, in my life, I've made peace with my past, to make peace with who I am now, and then to be able to bring peace into the world with other people. That's what it's about, making peace with that. You know, that's the most important thing, to let it go and make peace with it.
Brilliant. Listen, guys, if I let this carry on, we're going to be here till 9 o'clock. I can see it easily. First of all, I'd like to, can we give, were they awesome? Let's give a round of applause to the panelists.